I knew the day was going downhill when a silver SUV with a bumper sticker that read "I know my rights" swerved into our ranch entrance and slammed to a stop right across our gate. Not near it. Not slightly in the way. Dead center, blocking the only road in or out. I was on my four-wheeler, dusty from the morning feed, just trying to haul hay without getting heat stroke. The SUV's driver door flung open, and out stepped the human embodiment of a megaphone. Big sunglasses, arms crossed, chin so high she might sniff clouds. I didn't know her name yet, so in my head she quickly became Karen, keeper of all things incorrect. She inspected the gate chain like it offended her personally. Then she noticed me. She didn't wave. She pointed. "You," she barked. "Get this thing unlocked. I'm meeting someone inside." I blinked, squinting like maybe the sun was distorting reality. "Ma'am, this is private property." She waved a manicured hand like she was batting away a housefly's opinion. "It's not private. It's a neighborhood access road." "No," I said, "it's a ranch. A ranch that I live on. And a ranch that you are currently blocking." She scoffed. "Ranches don't have gates." "That's actually the whole point of gates," I said. "To keep out everything that doesn't belong here." Her sunglasses tilted like she couldn't believe I dared to engage in logic. "I'm allowed to be here. My realtor gave me permission." There it was. We were officially in trouble. Our land had recently been carved up into a few parcels sold on the far side of our property. A brand new mini-suburb was growing where cows used to wander freely and fertilize wherever they pleased. Realtors had been driving clients out for weeks, advertising views of wide-open pastures as though we were scenery in their backyard theater. They'd even started calling the development ranch estates, which felt like someone slapping a cowboy hat on a cardboard cutout and calling it a bullrider. "Who are you meeting?" I asked, questioning why life hated me. "None of your business," she snapped, digging through her purse. "Unlock this." She grabbed the gate like she'd rip it off the hinges through entitlement alone. The chain rattled, but the heavy steel post didn't budge. She huffed. I parked the four-wheeler and approached, deliberately slow. "Look, I don't know what your realtor told you, but that neighborhood has its own access road. This gate leads to corrals, equipment, livestock. There are bulls past this point that weigh more than your SUV. Are you threatening my vehicle?" She said it like she was about to sue gravity for making things fall. "No. I'm saying you're in a dangerous place. You could get hurt." "Don't you dare threaten me," she snapped. "I will call the sheriff." The sheriff was a close friend who played poker with my grandpa every Saturday night. I almost asked if she wanted his direct number, but sarcasm is a resource I like to conserve for special moments. Instead, I tried courtesy. "Okay. I'm going to have you pull off to the side so we can go about our day, and you can wait for whoever." "I will do no such thing," she said. "This is public. I pay taxes. I have rights." It always comes back to taxes with people who fundamentally misunderstand land ownership. She planted her feet as if she'd fused with the road. I could have argued more, but all that would do was raise my blood pressure and give her something new to scream about. So I drove back up the hill to get help. Grandpa was on the porch drinking coffee like he was studying the universe, and the universe was disappointing him. "Everything all right?" he asked before I even spoke. "We've got a situation," I said. "A shiny SUV situation." He grunted. That told me he fully understood. We walked down together, him with his calm stoic rancher pace that made every step look like he was deciding whether the ground deserved his attention. Meanwhile Karen was pacing by her SUV, phone pressed to her ear, yelling at someone important. Or so she believed. Grandpa called out, "Ma'am, you need to move your vehicle." She whipped around. Finally. A reasonable person. "Unlock this gate right now." He refused to help me. "That's because he's reasonable too," Grandpa replied. "And that gate stays locked." "I'm buying a house back there," she insisted. "I have a right to see it." Grandpa leaned against a fence post, refusing to give any of his energy to theatric. Your realtor lied. The county map shows no easement on this road. Your development has its own. That road is muddy, she spat. That sounds like a you problem. She gasped like he'd slapped the Constitution. Then she pointed at me. He threatened to unleash livestock on me. That's a new one, Grandpa said, glancing at me. Did you unleash any livestock? I restrained myself, I replied. Karen stomped back to her SUV. I assumed she was leaving to go ruin another rancher's afternoon. Nope. She leaned in, rummaged around, and returned holding a clipboard with a printed sheet. She thrust it at Grandpa. This proves I'm allowed through. Grandpa squinted. This is a pizza coupon. She snatched it back, flustered. It's the wrong paper. I know my rights. Grandpa sighed like someone who had been on this earth too long to deal with this level of nonsense. We'll be back in the house. You have 10 minutes to move. After that, I'll have the truck come tow you out. Towing me would be illegal. It will be educational, he said. We turned to leave. She screamed after us. I'm calling the sheriff. And the county. And the mayor. We don't have a mayor, Grandpa called back. She didn't respond, presumably too busy dialing everyone who never gave her their number. I expected she'd give up, move 2 feet to the right, and go about her privileged day. But no. This was Karen. She stayed. And when the sun slid down and painted the ranch in gold, she stayed. And when the first coyote howl echoed from the creek bed, she stayed. Her headlights clicked on like a spotlight for stubbornness. She was determined to prove something, though I doubted even she knew what. Grandpa watched from the porch and muttered, "Well, this will be interesting." I wasn't angry anymore. I was curious. If she wanted a standoff, she picked the wrong ranch. We had water, food, endless patience. She had an SUV with a slowly draining gas tank and no bathroom. By dark, the coyotes were close. By midnight, the gate was still blocked. And by morning, the real war had only just begun. When the sun rose and hit Karen's SUV, the windshield lit up like a spotlight on her bad decisions. She was slumped in the driver's seat behind fogged-up glass, wrapped in a blanket that looked like it belonged in a beach rental, not hostage negotiations. I stood by the fence sipping coffee, which tasted significantly better while watching a grown adult lose a standoff against a stationary gate. She jolted awake when she noticed me. Her hair was a confused nest of privilege and frustration. She cracked open the window 2 inches, like I might lunge in and steal her purse. You can't keep me here. This is illegal confinement." I stared at the wide-open ranch stretching behind her vehicle. "You're free to leave any time you want." "You know what I mean," she snarled, fumbling with her phone. Grandpa joined me with a thermos and the energy of a man who'd seen worse battles fought over cattle feed. "Morning, ma'am. How'd the graveyard shift treat you?" "I want the sheriff," she demanded, because apparently that was her only spell. "I'll give him a call," Grandpa said. "But I can't guarantee he'll rush over to watch you be wrong in a new location." She rolled up the window dramatically. The SUV engine turned over and sputtered, once, twice, then died. Her eyes widened in panic. She tried again. Nothing but a sad clicking noise. A truck pulled up behind us. It was my mom, still in her nurse scrubs with dark circles under her eyes. She looked at the scene like she wasn't sure if this was real or just sleep deprivation staging elaborate pranks. Grandpa filled her in. "She's decided this gate is her personal driveway, so she spent the night proving it." Mom sighed. "I already worked a double shift. Please tell me I don't have to argue with strangers before breakfast." "You could go back to bed," I suggested. "And leave you two to get sued into oblivion," she said. "Hard pass." Karen emerged from her mobile protest vehicle clutching her phone like it held the Geneva Conventions. "I'm calling my realtor," she declared. "Yes, please," Grandpa said. "Ask them about the muddy road again." She ignored him and stormed up to us. "You're going to unlock this gate," she said, finger jabbing the air, "and you're going to pay for my gas." Maybe she's method acting for a role in an entitled reboot of The Alamo, I whispered. Mom folded her arms. Lady, you blocked the wrong gate. That bull over there weighs 1,800 pounds and doesn't take direction from anyone, especially not someone who smells like coconut-scented entitlement. A snort from the pasture punctuated her point. Perfect timing from Buster, the bull. Karen's posture stiffened. This property is unsafe. There are animals everywhere. Mom took a slow breath, summoning professionalism. Because it's a ranch. I don't know what fantasy world your realtor sold you, but this land isn't part of your development. Karen scoffed. If it's not part of ours, why is it adjacent? That's how adjacency works, I said. She stomped away, yelling into her phone. The words legal action and county commissioner floated on the breeze like comedic blossoms. Grandpa shook his head. Some folks ain't happy unless they're miserable. He walked back toward the house, leaving Mom and me to monitor the chaos. By mid-morning, 2 sheriff SUVs rolled down the hill. Karen sprang to life like she'd been waiting for her personal cavalry. She stood tall, arms crossed, Victoria's smirk ready to be framed in a courtroom sketch. The sheriff stepped out, Deputy Miller, one of my old classmates. He gave me a look that said, "Please tell me you're kidding." "What's going on?" he asked. Karen pounced, pointing at Grandpa, Mom, and me individually. "They trapped me here overnight, endangered my safety, and refused my legal access to public land." Deputy Miller blinked slowly. "Ma'am, did they block you in?" "No," she admitted. "But the gate blocks the road." He glanced around. Open pasture. Open sky. Her SUV pointed toward the main highway like an arrow of obvious solutions. "You could leave by backing up," he said. "No," she insisted. "I need to go forward. To see my future home." Deputy Miller rubbed the bridge of his nose like he was trying not to scream. "There's no platted road beyond that gate. I checked those parcels last week. The approved access is on the east side." Karen threw up her hands dramatically. "That road is muddy. So are you planning to pave this ranch?" he asked, genuinely curious. "My HOA will handle it," she snapped. "The HOA?" I repeated, delighted by my new favorite joke. "We don't have an HOA. We have cows." Her phone pinged with a message. She glanced at the screen and gasped. "My realtor says there was a miscommunication." "Finally some truth," Mom muttered. Karen whipped around, hysterical energy rising. "This doesn't change anything. They illegally detained me." "I told you a dozen times you could leave," I said. "You stayed by choice." "And physics." She looked to Deputy Miller for support. He instead asked, "Do you want a tow back up the road?" "A tow?" she squawked. "Absolutely not. If you would simply unlock the gate." "No," Grandpa said, reappearing with a steaming mug. "That gate stays locked." Deputy Miller nodded. "He's within his rights." Karen spun in a circle, desperate for someone to validate her universe. No volunteers. Deputy Miller added, "Ma'am, if you remain parked here blocking their gate, I'll have to cite you for trespassing." Her jaw dropped. "I'm the victim." "That's not what it looks like," he said. "Either leave peacefully, or I'll arrange alternate transportation." She stomped back to her SUV. "Fine. I'll back up." Relief flickered through me. Maybe we were done. But instead of turning the wheel, she cranked the ignition again. The engine choked. She tried a third time, panicked hands slamming buttons. Deputy Miller radioed a towing company. Karen erupted. "No. I forbid it. I will sue." Miller raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" "Grounds," she barked. "Land. Property. Ownership." "She's just listing words," I whispered. Mom wasn't laughing anymore. She placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "Get the first aid kit ready. She's going to pass out from being wrong." The tow truck arrived with the kind of speed that suggested they'd been bored all morning. The driver stepped out, took one look at Karen, and deadpanned, an Uno reverse situation. Deputy Miller instructed, Tow her to the public road and release her there. Karen shrieked, I'm entitled to pass. You're entitled to relocate, Miller replied. As the tow hook clamped onto her SUV frame, she screamed like we were committing high treason. Her voice echoed across the ranch, startling the cattle. Her car rolled backward up the road, wheels locked. She ran behind it, yelling threats so dramatic they could have been Shakespearean if Shakespeare wrote about HOA drama and poor life choices. Silence settled. Then Grandpa murmured, She'll be back. People like that always come back. He wasn't wrong. Entitlement like hers wasn't a single-act show. It was a trilogy with spin-off. And by lunch she returned. Not alone. She brought reinforcements, and our little standoff was about to become a full-blown war. Karen rolled back down the road just past noon, this time with a convoy. 3 shiny SUVs, each one cleaner than the last, like they'd been detailed in anticipation of a righteous crusade. The lead vehicle sported a magnetic decal, Meadow Ridge Development. A man stepped out wearing slacks too tight for a ranch road and a blazer that screamed real estate is a personality type. His hair was styled into a perfectly aligned helmet. Beside him stood Karen, looking like she'd been rehearsing her victory smirk all the way here. Afternoon, the blazer man said, striding forward. I'm Tyler. And you are obstructing public easement. No, we are standing on our front yard, Grandpa replied from the porch without rising. Public easement exists nowhere near here. Tyler gave a laugh that was 90% condescension. We have documentation. Does it have toppings and a side of cheese? I asked. We saw her paperwork yesterday. Karen folded her arms and whispered something to Tyler that was probably equal parts exaggeration and delusion. He nodded like her words were sacred scripture. His associates joined him. A woman in business attire holding rolled blueprints, and a third person carrying a drone case. Karen positioned herself in the center like the queen of misinformed boundaries. Tyler cleared his throat, projecting like an actor in a low-budget courtroom drama. This gate denies access to lots that have been legally sold to future homeowners. My buyers expect entry. Grandpa stood now, slow and steady. The only access to those parcels is from the east. The county approved that. We told the developers months ago that this is a ranch road. For cattle. For our equipment. Not for scenic vista tours with HOA fan clubs. Tyler inhaled deeply, flashing a pitying smile. I get it. The old guard hates change. But growth is coming. You can't stop progress. Mom joined us, holding a clipboard of our own. Progress requires permits, compliance, and county road. You have none of those here. Karen stepped forward, hands clasped dramatically. They held me hostage all night. Tyler's eyes widened theatrically. Hostage? I pointed at the open road behind her. You were free to leave. And then you did leave. Twice. Not much of a hostage situation if the hostage's commute continues as scheduled. She ignored me and kept talking to Tyler like I was part of the landscaping. They think they can bully us because we're new. But we're going to bring real community values here. And property lines. Tyler snapped his fingers, signaling the drone handler. Let's make this official. The guy cracked open his case like he was disarming a bomb, pulled out a drone, and launched it skyward. It hummed overhead, scanning our land like a mechanical buzzard. Grandpa watched, unimpressed. You'll need a flight waiver to run surveillance over private property. Tyler waved him off. It's not surveillance. It's documentation. The drone angle swooped down the fence line. I noticed something off. It crossed the stone marker that distinguished our plot from the sold parcels. Then it kept going, dipping deeper into our pastures. Hey, I called out, you're on our land. Bring that thing back. Tyler smirked. We'll decide what counts as your land. Deeds are subjective. Only to people who lose arguments with topsoil, I said. Mom stepped forward, her voice steady. Land boundaries are recorded in county record. They're not improv theater. The drone suddenly buzzed lower, spooking Buster. Our bull snorted, stomped, and raised his head in a way that suggested he was open to negotiations, but violence was highly preferred. Karen screamed, "Control your animal." "You control your robot," I countered. Buster lunged at the drone. The pilot gasped and jerked the controls. The drone swerved, catching a fence wire. It flipped, spiraled, and landed in a puff of dust. Buster bellowed triumphantly. The drone guy looked like he might cry. Tyler snapped, "You owe us $3,000 for that." Grandpa blew air through his mustache. "Send a bill to the bull." Tyler turned red, pacing like he was trying to decide whether to scream or faint. "You people don't understand what's coming. This development has plans, amenities, order, rules. We are going to increase property values in this whole area. And we are going to keep our cattle fed and alive without a line of SUVs scaring the herd," Grandpa replied. The blueprint woman stepped up. "We actually have roadway expansion drafted. It shows a boulevard connecting directly through those hills." She pointed at our barn. "Right there." "Through our barn?" I asked. "Bold plan. Let me guess. Hipster coffee shop where the hayloft is." Karen jumped in. "Exactly. That's the vision. Families strolling past quaint farmhouses with rustic charm." Mom shot a look at Karen. "Rustic charm sounds like you want the aesthetic without the work." Karen rolled her eyes. "This land should benefit everyone. Not just a few animals and these people." The words "these people" landed like an insult dipped in pesticide. Grandpa's voice dropped lower than I'd ever heard. "This land has been in our family for 5 generations. We've worked every acre. Fed our community. Helped neighbors. When someone's cattle got loose, we helped bring them home. When someone needed shelter, we opened our doors. Don't talk to me about community like you invented it in a subdivision brochure." Tyler opened his mouth to spit corporate rage, but a county pickup suddenly bounced down the road. Relief washed through me. Reinforcements. Neutral, legal reinforcements. County Surveyor Lewis stepped out. He was the opposite of Tyler. Calm, dusty, functional boot. He walked to the stone boundary marker, dropped a GPS rod, and tapped his tablet a few times. Karen tried to intercept him. "Make them unlock this gate." Lewis ignored her like she was background noise and pointed at the screen. "The registered access road is on the east side. This gate is on private ranch land. Always has been." Tyler looked betrayed. "There must be an exception." "There isn't," Lewis said. "You were warned before development approval." Repeatedly. Karen sputtered. "But then how will I reach my home?" Lewis replied, "You'll use the road you were given." "It's muddy," she cried again. Lewis shrugged. "Bring boots." Tyler's jaw clenched. "We'll escalate this. You haven't heard the last of us." Grandpa tipped his hat. "Looking forward to episode 2. With that, Tyler gathered his crew and stomped off. But Karen lingered, shaking with fury. She pointed at me. "You will pay for this. All of you. This is war." I gave her my calmest smile. "You started a war with a fence post. I like our odds." She stormed off, but not before slamming her SUV door so hard it echoed like a poorly timed cymbal crash. As the dust settled, Grandpa leaned toward me. "This ain't their last rodeo." "No," I agreed. "They're just warming up." And in the quiet that followed, I realized something unsettling. Karen was the sort of person who would rather destroy a landscape than accept she doesn't rule it. And people like that don't quit. They escalate. By the time Friday rolled around, Karen's threats had upgraded from vague mutterings to organized nonsense. We spotted survey flags along the fence line that hadn't been there the day before. Pink markers, each stabbed into the ground like little declaration signs announcing, "Karen was here and she has no idea what she's doing." They marched right up to the gate again, daring us to rip them out. Grandpa plucked one out like a weed and held it up to the sunlight. "Plastic. Figures." Mom shook her head. "If they want a fight, they picked the wrong generation and the wrong property line." We tried to resume normal life, but Normal wasn't interested anymore. Strange cars would slow near the gate, take photos, then speed off like they were gathering evidence for the International Tribunal of Neighborhood Spite. Our phone rang non-stop with questions about access issues, which we ignored because explaining reality to people allergic to it is exhausting. Saturday morning, peace officially checked out of the ranch. Karen returned with a truckload of men wearing fluorescent vests and hard hats, armed with clipboards, tape measures, and the smug certainty of people who read the first half of a zoning bylaw pamphlet. They gathered near the gate like they were planning a skyscraper. Grandpa and I walked down together, calm and slow. He looked like he was on his way to swat a mosquito. Tyler wasn't here this time. Instead, Karen was clearly in command, barking orders like she'd been promoted to General of Entitlement Forces. Measure the width. We need clearance for 2 lanes. One of the men replied, "Ma'am, this is a barbed wire fence and a private driveway." She spun. "I am asserting community access. This will be the new through road for the Meadow Ridge development. Ma'am, we can't just build a road on private land. The county will approve it," she insisted. "I'm calling them right now." The worker blinked. "We're the county." Even I felt a little sympathy for him. Mom arrived next, wearing sunglasses and that expression nurses get when they're done with everyone's nonsense. "Hi," she said sweetly. "You're trespassing. Again." Karen thrust a folder toward her. "I have a proposal. This ranch becomes part of the master plan. We tear down the ugly barn, redirect the cattle, and build recreation spaces here. It will increase your land value." Grandpa's voice was steel. "The barn stays. So do the cattle." Karen scoffed. "You are being selfish. The community deserves beauty." Mom raised an eyebrow. "Beauty is subjective. But trespassing isn't." Karen turned back to the workers. "Ignore them. Keep going." One man scratched his head. "We're not allowed to survey land that isn't county property." She stepped inches from his face. "This is basically county property." Grandpa pointed to the stone marker. "Basically isn't legally." She rounded on him with a smirk. "You think you can fight the county? You're old news. Your land is going to be a sidewalk someday." Grandpa didn't flinch. "Sidewalks crack. But land remembers who respects it." For a moment the wind stopped. Birds held their breath. Even the men in vests paused. There are lines you don't cross on a ranch. She had just bulldozed 3. Karen didn't notice. She marched to the SUV and returned holding a giant silver lock. She dangled it like a trophy. "Fine. If you refuse to unlock it, then I will lock it until the county resolves this. You can't keep livestock or machinery from moving freely either." She snapped the lock on the chain. Grandpa watched with zero emotion. "Thank you. That lock is newer than ours." She froze. "What?" He took a step forward. "Now that you've added your lock to our gate on our land, that makes it a shared lock. We don't need your permission to lock up our own fence, but you now need our permission to unlock it." She blinked like a confused robot processing its first paradox. No. That's impossible." "It's how locks work," I said. "Basic hardware science." She shook her head so violently her sunglasses nearly flew off. "I am claiming this entrance as community property. That gives me authority." Mom crossed her arms. "What community?" Karen turned triumphantly to a minivan that had just arrived. Out came a couple wearing coordinated outfits, holding glossy pamphlet. "This community. We already bought Lot 9. We're organizing our HOA today. And she is our interim president." Of course she was. The Lot 9 couple smiled eagerly, clearly intoxicated by the dream of suburban bliss. "We're excited to build a safe, cooperative neighborhood. We've heard amazing things about these pastures." Grandpa sized them up. "Not malicious, just gullible. Victims of brochure fiction." He spoke gently. "The land behind the ridge is yours. This isn't." "But she said," the husband began. Karen cut him off. "Don't talk to them. They're trying to sabotage progress. Mom stepped closer to Karen, voice calm. You are trespassing and blocking our property again. You need to move your vehicle. Karen planted her feet. No. I am protecting community interests. Against who? I asked. Gravity? Fences. Karen's fists balled. I will win this. I have influence. I have a lawyer. I have people who listen when I complain. Grandpa's eyes narrowed. You forget something. We have loyalty. And that outweighs numbers. The county workers regrouped, whispering about leaving. One finally said to Karen, until a judge orders otherwise, stay off their land. We're out. They loaded up and vanished like they'd been rescued from a kidnapping, leaving Karen alone with her new fan club. She realized she still had an audience and puffed up again. This isn't over. We will force access through legal action. Mom leaned back casually. Karen, no judge will pave a road through a family's barn to make your SUV's feelings hurt less. Karen ignored her and clapped her hands like a kindergarten teacher demanding obedience. Everyone. Meeting. We're forming a perimeter. A perimeter of what? Disappointment? She and Lot 9 couple stood like three cones of confusion blocking the gate. Meanwhile, the ranch schedule refused to slow down. Dad's truck appeared hauling a trailer of feed. He honked, signaling he needed through. Move your vehicles, he called. I've got animals to feed. Karen pointed dramatically. We refuse. You cannot operate this land unlawfully. Dad's eyes scanned the situation. He sighed once, long enough to express every emotion from annoyance to regret. Then he drove the truck straight through the pasture instead. Karen screamed as dust and hay rained down. Dad waved politely on his way around the gate. Karen shouted after him, You can't do that. That's not a road. Dad yelled back, It is now. She clenched her fist. We're being bullied. Grandpa smiled. Welcome to ranching. The Lot 9 couple looked shaken. Not by us, by her. Reality had just cracked their dream like a dropped ornament. Mom whispered to me, They won't last a week. The SUV doors slammed. The minivan revved. Tires spun, flinging gravel. Their perimeter dissolved faster than a New Year's resolution. Karen lingered one more moment, glaring like she'd been personally betrayed by soil. You haven't seen the last of this, she said through gritted teeth. Grandpa tipped his hat. We're counting on it. She peeled out, leaving tire marks shaped suspiciously like a temper tantrum. Peace returned for a second. A tiny second. Because somewhere out there, Karen was scheming. An entitlement doesn't disappear. It reloads. Karen disappeared for 3 days. 3 glorious, peaceful days where the only drama on the ranch came from a stubborn goat who believed he could intimidate a tractor. We dared to hope that maybe Karen had finally accepted defeat, packed up her pamphlets, and retreated back to wherever HOA villains respawn. Then Wednesday morning arrived like a punchline delivered too soon. I stepped outside and noticed the sound first. A mechanical grinding, metal straining against metal. Not cattle gates. Bigger. Wrong. My stomach sank. I sprinted toward the main road. Karen was back. With a bulldozer. The kind used for tearing through rock, clearing trees, and, apparently, waging suburban war. It crawled forward like a yellow tank of denial. And she was sitting inside the cab with another man operating the controls. She spotted me and smiled as if she'd already drafted the victory speech. Grandpa arrived beside me, hands in pockets, jaw clenched. I asked quietly, Is this a fever dream or a felony? Both, he replied. Karen leaned out of the cab. Step aside. We're clearing this illegal obstruction. That's a gate, I said. Not a dragon. She pointed dramatically. This road will become the main boulevard for Meadow Ridge. You have obstructed development long enough. The dozer blade angled toward the fence, ready to carve its own truth. Grandpa shouted, You put that blade through my gate and you're destroying private property. Karen waved her phone triumphantly. My lawyer says I am within my rights. Your lawyer is wrong, I told her. That gate is older than your HOA chair title. The dozer driver hesitated. Ma'am, I don't see any paperwork and this looks like ranch land. Karen slammed her palm against the cab. Do it. The driver revved the engine. That's when sirens cried out from behind us. 2 sheriff SUVs slid to a stop in a cloud of dust. Deputy Miller stepped out, this time wearing his best "I warned you once" face. Behind him, Deputy Ramirez, who never smiled unless someone did something incredibly dumb. Like bulldozing a ranch gate, Miller approached Karen's construction crusade. Turn the engine off. Karen stuck her head farther out the cab window. I am reclaiming access for the community. Ramirez pointed at the ground. Ma'am, that blade is on private ranch property. Shut it down or I shut it down for you. She folded her arms. No. You cannot stop development. Miller held out his hand. Driver, license, and registration. The bulldozer operator scrambled to comply, eyes pleading for rescue. Ramirez approached Karen again. You do not have authority to destroy or alter anything here. Step out of the machine. No, she yelled. This area belongs to the HOA. Miller stared at her like she'd just declared herself Empress of Cows. There is no HOA here. There will be, she insisted. I am making sure progress continues. Grandpa muttered to me, progress needs better spokespeople. Karen screamed, they're squatting on land the community needs. I coughed. We live here. Ramirez radioed dispatch. We may need county roads and land management to respond. Possible dispute escalating. Karen pulled out a folded set of papers and tried throwing them at Miller, but the wind slapped them right back into her face. She sputtered like the air had betrayed her personally. Miller unfolded one sheet. This is a petition to widen the road. It's step 1, she yelled. We don't need approval to prepare. Yes, he said, you do. She tried to slam the cab door, but the latch caught and it bounced open again, ruining her dramatic exit. She fought with it like it was committing treason. The bulldozer driver whispered down to Miller, she just paid me cash. That's not surprising, Miller replied. Pull the keys and step down. The driver did not need to be told twice. He bailed out like the cab was filled with bees. Karen shrieked, coward. You're abandoning the cause. The driver sprinted to his pickup and sped away, dust exploding behind him. Karen was alone, cornered, still refusing to be wrong. Ramirez gently took her arm. Step out, ma'am. She fought like a cat thrown into a bathtub. They're criminals. Arrest them. Miller sighed and snapped cuffs around her wrists. You're under arrest for trespassing, vandalism attempts, and disobeying lawful orders. Karen screeched, voice cracking, You're making a mistake. Miller replied calmly, Ma'am, I've arrested people for worse landscaping choices. Karen continued screaming as they guided her to the patrol car. Even inside, with the door shut, we could still hear her yelling through the glass. I will own this place. The moment they drove her away, the dust settled into silence. A peaceful kind of silence. A silence that tasted like justice. Mom arrived just in time to witness the aftermath. Tell me she didn't try to bulldoze the barn. Just the gate, I replied. Small victories, she said. Grandpa took a deep breath, letting the tension drain. Won't be long before she's back. Folks like that think getting arrested is just another item on their to-do list. He was right again, annoyingly right. 3 hours later, she returned. No bulldozer this time. No contractors. No posse of confused homeowners. Just Karen. And a single clipboard. She approached with unsettling calm. Her voice was softer than before, almost eerily composed. I apologize, she said. We all froze. Had she actually grown? Had consequences worked? She continued, I realize now that I approached this wrong. We should work together. I have drafted a proposal that makes everyone happy. I raised an eyebrow. Everyone? Yes. I found a compromise. We reroute the road slightly, through that small patch of field where you store the hay bales. Very minor adjustment. And in exchange, the HOA will allow you to keep a few animals for authenticity. Grandpa's eyes went cold. We're standing on a cattle ranch. She smiled like she thought he'd misunderstood. Exactly. But we don't need all this space for authenticity. Your cows can graze right near the walking trails. Mom stared at Karen as if debating whether to call a therapist or an exorcist. You genuinely don't understand how ranching works. Karen didn't blink. I understand community better than anyone here. And this community is bigger than your family. There it was again. Her new religion, community. Meaning whatever she wanted it to mean that moment. Mom stepped forward. Here's my proposal. Stay off our land. Forever. Karen frowned. That's not a negotiation. Grandpa looked at her like she was a ticking explosive made from Pinterest quotes and misplaced confidence. We're not negotiating. This ranch isn't for sale. Not an inch of it. Not now. Not ever. Karen's composure cracked. Her lips trembled. Her face flushed pink. She wasn't used to losing. You will regret this, she whispered. Quiet. But somehow louder than any of her shouting. Then she turned around. Walked away. No threats. No screams. Just that final sentence hanging in the dust like smoke from a wildfire that hasn't yet reached your home. Mom exhaled. That's not the end. Grandpa nodded. Nope. That was a warning shot. I looked out at the pastures stretching into the glowing horizon. The cattle grazed peacefully, unaware of the war waging over their grazing rights. We had protected the land through logic, patience, and a sheriff intervention. But Karen wasn't beaten. She was regrouping. And the next round wouldn't be loud. It would be calculated. The next morning dawned too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes animals restless and ranchers suspicious. I went out to feed the cows, but my eyes kept flicking to the ridge above the gate, expecting headlights or construction crews or a marching band of HOA enforcers. Nothing. Just wind brushing the grass and Buster snorting at shadows. Peace felt fake, like a prop in a play waiting to collapse. Mom walked out with coffee, scanning the horizon. She's planning something, she said. Entitled people always think silence is a strategy. Grandpa joined us a moment later, hat low over his eyes. We stay vigilant. She'll come from a direction we're not looking. He was right. Because Karen didn't attack the gate. She attacked the law. A white sedan pulled up our road mid-morning. A man in a suit stepped out carrying a thick envelope. His shoes were too clean for ranch land. He looked like someone who ironed his socks. I'm looking for the property owner, he called. Grandpa approached. That'd be me. What's the trouble? The man handed him the envelope like he was passing over a verdict. You have been served. 2 words I never wanted anywhere near our driveway. Grandpa opened the papers, flipping through page after page of legal nonsense. I read over his shoulder. Petition for emergency injunction. Claims of obstruction. Allegations of harassment. A request to force public access through our land. All signed by none other than Karen. I muttered. She went full paperwork warfare. The lawyer sniffed like the air offended him. My client wants a peaceful resolution. Comply with the order and no one will be further inconvenienced. Grandpa looked him dead in the eye. Tell Karen I'll see her in the hearing. The lawyer blinked. People don't usually stand up to his type. The hearing is this afternoon, he said. Of course it was. A rush job. A sneak attack. Karen hadn't been regrouping. She'd been drafting. We changed into our cleanest clothes, grabbed folders of our own, and headed to the county courthouse. Inside, Karen sat at the petitioner's table looking smug enough to power a city. Beside her was Tyler, flipping through documents like this was his Super Bowl. She didn't acknowledge us. That made her victory grin louder. Judge Hall entered, an older woman with no patience for theatrics. She listened silently as Karen launched into her speech. Every sentence dripped with righteous indignation and creative fiction. They threatened me, trapped me overnight, and are destroying the future of Meadow Ridge. The community deserves access, and their gate is an act of aggression. The judge raised one eyebrow. Do you have any evidence? Karen gestured wildly. I was arrested because they lied to the sheriff. Judge Hall scribbled something. Being arrested does not support your claim that you are correct. Karen opened her mouth, then closed it again. That was new. Tyler stepped forward, smoothing his blazer. Your Honor, this land is essential to the development. Our buyers were promised scenic neighborhood access. Without this road, the entire project loses significant value. Judge Hall tapped her pen. Promises made by developers do not alter recorded property lines. Finally, our turn. Grandpa spoke calmly, respectfully, and with more truth in one sentence than Karen managed in her entire soliloquy. He presented deeds, maps, county approvals, and the sheriff's incident report. He explained how this ranch worked, how access was allotted, and why roads existed where they did. Mom added the safety concerns. I spoke about the Bulldozer incident. The judge listened to every word. Karen rolled her eyes often. When we finished, Judge Hall leaned back. Decision is simple. There is no legal basis for forced access across this ranch. Petition denied. The petitioner is ordered to cease trespassing. Any further attempt to alter or block the ranch access will result in escalating penalties, including contempt of court. Karen stood like she'd been launched by a spring. You can't deny progress. Judge Hall stared over her glasses. Progress doesn't involve bulldozing someone else's property. Karen tried one more desperate maneuver. I demand a different judge. That's not how justice works, Hall replied. Motion denied. The gavel struck. Case closed. But for Karen, acceptance wasn't an option. She stormed out of the courthouse like she expected paparazzi to chase her. We returned home celebrating with barbecue and laughter. We believed the battle was won. We underestimated her ability to turn humiliation into pure chaos. That night, headlights blazed through our bedroom windows. I ran outside to the gate. Karen stood there, engine idling, lights cutting through the dark like two angry eyes. She got out holding bolt cutters. My heart punched my ribs. She charged the gate. Metal clanged as she attacked the lock like she was auditioning for a crime show. Karen! I yelled. Stop! No! She screamed, voice breaking. You ruined everything. My house, my future, my plan. I deserve this land. She snapped the cutters again. Grandpa arrived behind me, flashlight beam cutting across the scene. Karen, he warned, you're violating a court order. She swung around, feral, breathing like she'd run miles on pure vengeance. You don't own justice. You just got lucky today. Tomorrow I take what's mine. She cut again. The chain dropped. The gate swung open slightly. She turned toward her SUV to drive through. But Grandpa stepped forward, lifted the gate, and slammed it shut again. Then he looped a new chain and snapped on a new lock. Karen stared in disbelief. You can't do that, she whispered. Grandpa replied, watch. Then he walked calmly to Karen's SUV and locked the livestock gate beside it, blocking her car inside our property line. She gasped. That's kidnapping. No, he said. You're free to leave. Car isn't. She lunged for the driver door. Grandpa didn't stop her. She climbed inside, furious, engine revving. But now the fence was the obstacle. And we weren't touching a thing. You'll pay, she screamed. You'll all pay. She stayed parked there all night, headlights illuminating nothing but her own reflection in the gate she'd tried so hard to conquer. By sunrise, Deputy Miller arrived, hands on his hips. Morning again, Karen. She tried explaining everything at machine gun speed. He interrupted with, step out of the vehicle. As he cuffed her for violating the injunction, she pointed at me, wild-eyed. This isn't over. You can't lock progress behind a gate. Miller smiled. Tell it to the judge. Again. They drove away for the second time in handcuff. This time, she didn't come back. Not the next day. Not the next week. Rumor has it she moved states. Something about rural infrastructure trauma. The development continued on the east side like it was always meant to. The Meadow Ridge HOA elected a new president, someone who understood that fences exist for reasons. And our ranch? Our ranch remained ours. One gate, one road, one family. Some battles don't require bulldozers or courtrooms, just a locked fence. And patience, lots of patience. And every morning when I ride out, the gate stands strong, a reminder that some boundaries protect more than land. They protect home, heritage, peace.